3.
We are in the company of some real heroes today. Welcome to Deadline LA. I'm Barbara Osborne.
And I'm Howard Bloom.
In October of every year, we do a show that features the International Women's Media Foundation's Women of Courage. And I can't tell you what a privilege it is each year to be in the presence of these women. They are political heroes who express their courage and their conviction through journalism, often at enormous personal risk and sacrifice. So through the International Women's Media Foundation, Howard and I have met over the years with journalists in countries across the globe, and they are invariably some of the most interesting interviews we do all year. So listen up, this is going to be intense and inspiring.
You're listening to Deadline LA on KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara, 93.7 FM San Diego, and 99.5 FM Ridgecrest, China Lake, and KPFK.org on the World Wide Web, where you can get archive shows, listen live, get podcasts. I'm Howard Bloom.
And I'm Barbara Osborne, and we're joined now by another remarkable woman who is devoting her life to journalism, Khadija Ismayilova. She's from Azerbaijan. Khadija, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let me tell our listeners just a little bit about a recent incident that occurred to you as a response to investigative reporting that you've been doing. In March, Khadija received an anonymous letter in the mail. At the time, she was a reporter for Radio Free Europe, and she was investigating whether the president's family members had received kickbacks from construction projects in the capital of Azerbaijan. Inside the package, Khadija discovered intimate pictures of herself and her boyfriend, apparently taken by a hidden camera that had been installed somewhere in her apartment. She, rather bravely, went public with this threat, and her friends took up shifts to guard her apartment because the government refused to provide her any protection. Khadija, how am I doing in terms of summarizing that story from this past spring?
Yeah, that's correct, what you said. And, later we've learned, when we were investigating this crime against myself, we've learned that the camera was installed in July 2011 to have online surveillance, and it was just a week after the story I wrote about president's daughters owning offshore companies in Panama, and through these companies owning a stake in communication business in Azerbaijan. They basically had a control over 3G services in Azerbaijan, which is fast internet on your mobile phone. For several years, none of other companies could get this license from the government, while President's daughter's company got into the market without tender, without any bidding procedure, and they got all the licenses they needed. So they were monopolists in the market. So this story was published, and week after,
it was published where? Where was it published?
It was published by Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and it was in Azerbaijani and in English, and it was quoted by several other media worldwide and inside the country. So government didn't like it, apparently. And, I had some friendly and not so friendly messages saying that that's not the way to deal with the government. I have to be more careful what friendly messages say. Unfriendlies would say, do I want to be dealt with? But I didn't take them serious. I decided not to concentrate on those things.
And so you were working as a journalist for a foreign news operation, in essence?
It's actually Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty is an American entity. It's funded by the U.S. Congress. It's broadcasting in more than 20 languages, and it's American funded radio.
So that may give you theoretically some level of protection that an Azerbaijani, somebody working for a locally owned paper might have, but obviously you're living in the country, you're working in the country, and certainly you have no actual physical protection.
Definitely, it gives some sort of protection, but on the other hand, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and as well as Voice of America and BBC are now banned in local frequencies in Azerbaijan.
Since when?
Since 2009. Actually, I was in 2000. I work for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty since 2008, and I'm proud to be part of it because it's the sole source of alternative information in the country. All the broadcast media in the country is under control. It's either belongs to President's family or being controlled by President's family. So it's there is no other voice there. It's just Radio Liberty.
And how do people get access to your voice from inside the country?
Well, it was good when we were on local frequencies, but then since we got banned, we decided to move to internet and satellite, and it's getting, the audience is getting back. We call it turning challenges into opportunities, or building house from the stones thrown to us. Well, we try to do our best to expand our operation nationwide, so the people are listening to us through satellite now in all of the country. The Radio Liberty's website is the most popular news website.
And they haven't found a way
country.
to block the website at this point.
Well, they do filter sometimes, occasionally. They have very sophisticated policy of filtering. They do it not from the backbone provider, but on ISP level. These are the details you might not need. Well, they do sometimes filtering, but Radio Liberty is working in countries like Iran, so we have experience with dealing with with filtering, and so we have anti-filter website that helps our listeners and viewers.
And your listeners, I presume, are very aggressive in wanting to get this undiluted, this message that's not controlled by the government.
Yes, absolutely, and it doesn't make sense nowadays to control the internet. Once you have internet in the country, for example, North Korea doesn't have access to internet for its citizens. In Azerbaijan, people do have internet access. Well, it's not like everywhere. It's difficult in rural areas. There are lots of areas where people don't have access, but it's getting better because the government claims to be modern, IT savvy country. So they don't want to be in the same level as North Korea and Iran. So they do have certain internet, and even in Iran, they were not able to block it totally.
So you're doing investigative pieces on the government, and you're both physically threatened by implication, if not directly. And there's this blackmail threat based on these cameras that were installed in your home, and then there was the incident that happened to your colleague. Tell us about that and its role in shaping you as a journalist.
Well, it happened in 2005. Before that, I believe, and that I think, well, I've been doing this easy journalism that, like, I was very proud of being, like, up to standards. All my stories were balanced, and I was doing a great deal with all fact verification. In fact, there were no facts in my stories, no thrilling facts. I mean, I haven't been doing any difficult journalism before 2005.
Well, what were you? Give us an example of something you were doing previous to 2005.
Well, I've been doing, like, reporting on the spot and, like, telling what is happening in, like, it's never digging into.
It's legitimate journalism.
Yeah, we've been doing. It's legitimate, absolutely
but it's
legitimate.
Safe.
Yeah, and it was like I've been reporting about corruption on low level, but. In fact, the full truth is that the system is corrupt from the top, from the very top to the very bottom. And my colleague Elmar Husseinov, He was editor of Monitor magazine. He was basically the only person, only journalist in Azerbaijan who was reporting about the highest level corruption in the country, who was telling people that it starts from the president. And his stories might not be documented well. His stories might not be balanced well, because just government ignores all these stories, all these journalists who are writing about
comes
those
with the
things.
territory that you're going to be doing reporting of a certain sort if you're going in that direction. And what happened to him?
They killed him.
And who is they?
Well, it's not proved by the court, but our assumption is it comes from the government and probably from the president.
Was anybody held accountable for his murder?
No. It's the next day after his murder, the president said that he's very upset and he's going to find the murderer within 40 days. And 7 years passed.
How was he killed?
He was shot 5 bullets in the mouth. And he was shot dead in front of his door. He's just... His wife opened the door and the body of her husband.
Now, so most people would experience that incident as a colleague, and that would push them away from doing dangerous stories.
It happened. It actually happened. That is what happened. Since then, there was like several years of silence, like couple years of silence afterwards. And I say that in 2005, March 2nd, when he was killed, the self-censorship was introduced in Azerbaijan. That was a day. Since then, there was like one incident when in 2006, one of our colleagues, he wrote a piece where he asked very innocent question, where the first lady gets money to build schools and build her propaganda on it. Because there was a huge propaganda around charity activity of the first lady, and she was building community schools, which actually it's another story. It's another interesting story. So he just asked the question, where does she get money to build those schools? Because there was no transparency in that charity business at all. And he was kidnapped, taken out of the city, car drove twice over his legs. And he was left there bleeding, and it was absolutely lucky coincidence that someone was driving by, and someone came there and saw him there. He could die there. He could die as well. Well, this is how they deal with people who get into family business. And then there was a story from Washington Post in 2009. And that was, I think, the time... Well, we've been reporting about journalists being killed and corruption, but we were not skillful enough. We didn't know how to document those things. We didn't know how to do good investigative reporting. Well, when Washington Post story came up, it was telling us that the president's children have property in Dubai. President's 11-year-old son has property in Dubai worth $44 million. And, well, it was kind of... the author of this story, he contacted me before, and I helped him with some information for that story. But then I realized that if this is possible to find all these records, why don't we do that? And, well, I got some training from... there is a project called Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. And I know several people from that project. It's an international project, also a US and Europe, EU funded project. And I I asked them to help me, to teach me how to do that. And they did. They taught me how to do that. They taught me how to fish offshore companies in different offshore havens. And, well, I discovered lots of documents there that shows president's family members. Then these trainings and these documents helped me to learn that the president's family members, they control almost half of the banking business in Azerbaijan. They have a great stake in construction business. They have a stake in gold mining. They have, I told you about communication business, and all sorts of this story. Well, basically they own a lot in the country, and they are one of the biggest monopolists.
So, in other words, the president has used his political power as a family way of self-enrichment to almost unimaginable degrees. And we're getting near the end of our time for this segment. So, the government, in essence, tries to blackmail you with these intimate pictures and videos. And just close the loop on that story. What happened and how did that affect you?
Well, I received the package, as Barbara told already. I received this package with my pictures engaged in sexual relations. And because it happened before to other journalists, they've been, their sexual videos has been shown on TV, on primetime news, on the TV channel ran by president's cousin. So we kind of expected something like this to happen to any of us. All of the journalists were expecting something like this happening. Well, I've been asking myself what I will do when it happens. And I didn't answer to that, like what will be my response. My colleagues who faced this challenge, one of them quit his job. He disappeared. It happened twice. And he disappeared. Actually, he is not visible anymore. He quit his job. Another one, he stopped writing about politics. He's now working for a pro-government news agency writing only about literature. And they used to work in opposition newspaper. Well, when it happened to me, when I received that package, I was surprised with my reaction. I discovered that anger is bigger than fear. And I was really angry, and but I had my daily show to run that evening, and I had to be on the air on radio, and there were like 3 hours till the show. First thing I did, I informed my management in Radio Liberty and Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. I told them what is happening, and I told them that I will make a decision what to do, and so it's so I will take a lead on reaction, and then I decided to calm down because angry journalist is not a good journalist, so that was important thing to keep in mind, and I decided. My boss in Prague, in Radio Liberty, said I should skip the show today and someone else would go on the air. I said, no, it's not going to happen. I'm going to go and run my show. And I did it. I didn't do anything before the show, not to spoil the show. But right after the show, I spoke to the lawyer just to find out what kind of information I can release, not to spoil investigation later. And then I wrote a Facebook note. This is how I answer blackmailers. And there I told that I'm not going to stop. I'm doing investigation now. I actually announced the topic of investigation just for the self-control purposes. just to prevent myself to step back. And I announced the topic of I announced that I'm now doing an investigation showing that the president's family benefited from patriotic construction project of building the highest flagpole for the budget money. So they spent 30 million euros on this flagpole, that's the stick for
amazing,
which was the highest flagpole in the world for 6 months only, because Tajikistan built the new one, which was 2 meters higher, and and the president's family company benefited from that. They did this construction.
So we sort of have to leave it there, but I think it's clear to anyone listening to this why Khadija Ismayilova is one of the winners of the Courage Awards from the International Women's Media Foundation. Any quick closing? I mean, I do apologize for cutting this short a little bit, but any quick closing comment about
what personal precautions are you taking to try and ensure your safety?
Well, my understanding is that they are much more powerful than I am, and they can do whatever they want. They can kill me if they want. They can do, like, I don't control any of this. I don't control their desire to do anything to me. I don't control their means to do anything to me. So it doesn't make sense to think about it. I just don't think about it. So this is what I do. I do what I want to do. I don't let them to make me live the life they want me to live, and that is my response to it. That's it. So I had like bodyguard for a couple months, but I don't need it. It doesn't prevent anything. These precautions will not save me if anything happens. So I will do my work. I will do it in the best manner possible. Since blackmail happened, I published 3 investigations. In all 3, the president's family was involved. I'm not chasing them. I'm just wherever you dig, their names pop out of the business.
You're just doing your job.
I'm just doing my job. So,
Khadija Ismayilova, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.